Route 66 was a highway built by the demands of a new America. It was the nation's first principal east-west artery. Officially commissioned in 1926, U.S. Highway 66 traveled through hundreds of rural communities in the Midwest and desert Southwest.
But it was little. It was just 2 lanes, blacktop. In some places there were high hills, mountains, passes, trestles. It was quite an adventure to actually go all that way.
It wasn't until 1938 that the final section was paved, and the golden age of the automobile was in full swing. Flat and temperate, Route 66 was a new and easy way for farmers to transport their goods to market. Route 66 was also a chosen over alternative routes because it provided the most direct passage to the Pacific coast.
My favorite memories are playing on the beaches in Santa Monica. My grandmother lived up the hill, and when we went west in the winter, my father was a farmer. And in the winter, when the ground was frozen, you can't farm, so that's when you take your vacations. Yeah, we were a close family. There were just 4 of us, my father and mother and my sister and I. My mom was a really beautiful woman. She was tall, blonde in her later years, and she used to be really an outdoors person. She played a lot of golf in her later years, and she encouraged our tennis. We always played tennis. She had her movie camera, and that's how I was able to put together this collection of, she did everything. She filmed us when we went to camp, and she filmed us, when we went to the dance in high school. She just always had a camera. And my dad was a real hard worker. He would be up before I ever got up in the morning. And he loved farming, and he was a good farmer. It was a lot of work. And he built up to the amount of land we have now, which is quite a lot, by buying and selling and trading and being successful. And he also ran cattle. He went down to Texas every year and bought heads of cattle and brought them up and corn-fed them and sold them in Chicago or New York. The farm my sister and I own in Illinois is near Henning. It's near the Indiana border, 125 miles south of Chicago. 180 acres, we run 2 miles, 2 miles. That's the main part over there. And then we have a whole bunch of storage bins up in the north section. It's a very high barn. It was used for storing corn, and it had a cupola on top. There was machinery inside it, and you could put the grain and things on this thing that brought it up. And it was sort of a brand new concept, and people came from all over the place to see how this worked. There's hardly any old wooden barns left. They're gone. They've all been replaced with these kind of tin prefab things that they throw up. These barns that were part of our heritage are just being torn down, just left and right.
It's the biggest one around, and it had the first most modern elevator equipment in it, and it was just, people came from miles around to see it. Oh God, that makes me sad. We're gonna tear it down.
My sister, yeah, when she was growing up, she was very lively, very bright. I remember I think she was stage twirling, baton twirling. I don't think they do that anymore, but that was kind of a big deal growing up. And she won a lot of ribbons, and she might have been state champion for that. We both played a lot of tennis. She ended up going to a girls' school called Ward Belmont in Nashville for 3 years, and then she joined me in Phoenix, and we went to high school the rest of the time in Phoenix. And she went to Tempe, which is Arizona State University, and then she graduated from USC, and she was a teacher for a number of years. I went from Arizona to the University of Arizona in Tucson, so we were rival schools. Anyway, she met a young man and married, and at USC. They were divorced some years later, and she's now living in Durango, Colorado, and we have a winter place in Sun City West in Phoenix. I wanted to be married with a family. I wanted to be a writer. And what's been exciting is my life has gone beyond what I ever dreamed. I've been able to travel the world because I'm a travel writer. My mom got a camera. She went through many cameras. She just bought them. She just loved doing it. She was really way ahead of her time. She loved doing it, and she was good. And she taught us how to do it, how to hold the camera still, and how to let it go for a while, and not be jerking it around. And so I learned to shoot too, a little bit.
Route 66 was crucial to the war effort. Soldiers traveled the highway, hitching rides to military bases on the West Coast. Their wives and children followed. In this way, the road was used to connect wayward families who had been separated by the fate of their nation.
We were all caught up in World War II when we were very, very little. And we were really too young to understand it, but there'd always been a war, and we kind of thought when the war was finally over that there would be peace and the world would be safe for democracy and all those things that they told us. I had a lot of uncles serving, and we'd visit them. My My Uncle Buzz was in the Navy in Chicago. We visited him up, and he was based up there. Another uncle, Austin, was in New Mexico. He was in Air Force. And Route 66 played a big part because people in the service, were going back and forth across the country using that route.
The success of Route 66 was undeniable. Tourist-based businesses were motivating travelers to head west. Novelty shops, restaurants, filling stations, and casinos served tourists all along the way.
Well, what Route 66 meant to me was a great holiday. We got out of the ice and snow of Illinois after the harvest was over, usually November, and headed west, and it was like a picnic. We got to, we didn't stop a lot. My dad was always in a hurry. But once in a while, we could persuade him to stop and see something. And it was a great adventure. And we did it over and over and over. My mom would always have her movie camera. She was way ahead of her time. She always had a movie camera before people did that. Route 66 was an escape from the cold, and we headed for Paradise, Southern California, in the 40s. It was beautiful. We could smell the orange groves when we hit LA County, and the ocean, and it was absolutely beautiful. And the beaches, I loved it. I think it affected our family in a positive way. It was, when you've got 4 people together in a car. My dad liked to start really early in the morning. He would start, maybe we'd get up about 4 a.m. He'd say, give the drunks, the bar's closed at 2, give the drunks time to get off the road, get home, get to bed, and then we'd take off. And Judy and I would just get in the back seat and go to sleep, usually. And we'd really make time. We used to make that trip 3.5 days. We would just scoot right along. And then we'd kind of wake up, and then we'd go to breakfast, we'd stop, and then, we'd make stops during the day for lunch or rest stops or gas or flat tires or something. But we did really good time. When you drive a long distance like that, in those days, you were apt to get a couple of flat tires because they didn't make the tires as well as they do now. And I never thought about it, but looking back at the film, seeing my dad in a 3-piece suit changing a tire just blew me away. And I remember he'd have to take all the luggage out. And that was a big deal because we had luggage. In those days, everyone used very stiff, heavy suitcases. They would be really heavy just on their own, and they'd be full of stuff. And so he'd have this little way of getting them in the trunk that nobody else could figure out. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. So all that would have to come out, and then he'd get out the changing irons and all that, to pump up the car. And we'd dance around and try and stay out of the road, and my mom would be taking movies. And it was a riot. To look back now, I see one of those, I think he actually took his jacket off to do it. But we were so dressed up. In those days, like he'd wear, to these long trips, a 3-piece suit and a felt hat. My mom would be in a suit, and my sister and I'd be all dressed up. It was just a kick seeing it, all dressed up like in a little dress and things. And he'd be out there on the road changing these tires. And I would remember watching, because it's a little scary thing. You get a flat, you hear, the car is weaving, and, oh boy, you got to get off the road in a hurry. And then we'd have to stop at the next town. Then he'd everything and have to go back in the car. That'd be another big deal, getting everything, the suitcases all back in again. And then we'd have to, as I say, stop at the next town, find a garage, get the tire fixed, because we couldn't keep driving if we didn't have a good spare, a new tire or something. So that was kind of a big deal. And it's funny that my mom took those movies of him out there changing those tires. It brought back a lot of memories. I think the people I remember were the guys at the gas stations, guys at garages if we needed to get a tire fixed. service people. Some motels, the people that we met at motels. The reason I wanted to travel Route 66 again, talked to my sister. I said, gee, wouldn't it be fun, because we still own a farm in Illinois. My parents are both deceased, but my sister and I inherited this farm. So I said, instead of flying back, why don't we drive back this year? Let's pick up 66 and see what we can see. And she thought that sounded like fun. That's really why. I just wanted to see it one more time because I had so many happy memories. I really had more fun doing it this time than I did as a child, because this time we took our time and we were stopping at every place that was of any interest that we'd gone flying by before. It really affected me because it was so great. We had such a great time, and the film crew was just wonderful. Everybody got along, everything went well. The weather was terrific. We had this great Corvette rally run across Missouri.
Can you believe all these cars? Crazy.
Across Missouri yesterday, we had a road one with 35 Corvettes and 9 Harley Davidsons. We had so much fun. We went across the street of Missouri, ending up in Lebanon at the Munger Moss Motel, which this lady that checked us in had been there herself for 32 years. We stayed in the Route 66 room, which had double beds, and we walked in. We just freaked out. It was so cool. They had pink satin bedspreads with great big pink satin. But Judy read the fine print, and it wasn't really satin. It was an imitation, but it looked like satin. And pink satin ruffles around the beds. And the bathroom was pink and black tile from the 20s or something. And they had a pink rug and lace pink curtain on the shower. And then there was a round table, and it had a pink overflow of cloth with a ruffle around that. So you get the idea. And the rug was dark brown. Tell them about the beds.
Oh, they were so wonderful and soft, and the pillows were great. It was just really a good bed. She had a bed and I did, and we watched the Cubbies on the television, and it was just wonderful.
And because we were just a little bit up a hill, we didn't get the highway traffic, so it was quiet. It was like the best night's sleep we've had on this whole trip.
Yeah, it was just wonderful. I've never sold where the baptism on. Nothing else guides you but the evening star. Toughest man by far away. Around her neck, she wore a yellow ribbon, she wore a ribbon, whatever. It's your turn. Tom made me get on. Okay, the stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. The prairie sky is wide and high. Deep in the heart of Texas, shines blue, just like her. Deep in the heart of Texas, reminds me of the one I love. Deep in the heart of Texas.
I can remember when we dropped the atomic bomb in Japan. I mean, that was just an incredible shock to everyone. Because we didn't know about it. It was a very top secret. And suddenly they dropped it.
Oh, wonderful.
Look at these views.
Great.
Incredible.
Hooray.
San John, J-O-N.
Love it.
Tucumcari, wow. Brings back memories.
It's a sinkhole and it's been here forever, as long as I know. I'm sure that at one time it was just a big hole in the ground, and one day water came up, and it's been flowing ever since. The water's 61 degrees year round, from top to bottom, never freezes. People come here from all over for either certifications or just to keep up their skills. A lot of training from open water, advanced. We even have people come down here to learn to become instructors. It's the closest place around to do deep diving. The deepest part is 81 feet with your altitude, because you are doing an altitude dive. It comes out to 110-foot dive. You do have to be aware of the area of where you're going when you leave from here after your dives, because there's high points like Albuquerque or Santa Fe, or going back to Colorado. There's 8,000 feet or 7,000 foot climb, so people do have to be real careful with that.
The Congressional Highway Act of 1956 provided the means for a much-needed interstate system. Once this system was built, it allowed safe and rapid transport across the nation. These interstates bypassed the small towns that Route 66 had passed directly through. A generation passed, the businesses, signs, and attractions along the route fell into disrepair. In the 1980s, the Mother Road was resurrected, this time as a destination unto itself. This renewal created an opportunity to travel into America's past. Museums were built in deserted storefronts. Businesses that had barely survived the interstate were renewed and celebrated with historical honors.
66 is becoming more and more, use the word popular, or it's being made aware to the world just more and more and more, and people are liking the fact that they can find something about America that is all but gone. And Route 66 is so much of America.
Cuando yo era pequeñita, yo a mi madre le pregunté, ¿seré yo rica, seré yo pobre? Y esto me contestó, ¿qué será, será? Lo que vas a hacer será, lo que vas a hacer será, ¿qué será, será? Ahí se acaba.
A little bit of Japanese, a little bit of German, a little bit of French, a little bit of Spanish, a lot of English. You know, we try to greet everybody in their native language, so we learn a little bit in every language.
I found some goodies. I found a cute vest and a little bag.
I'm sorry.
So we're now on Old Route 66 again.
Karen Gowdy, Bob Yost, and Karma Yost, and these were like the bricklayers and the gathering of the information and everything, putting this thing together. And they, putting an ad in the paper, we need your junk and we need your bed, and so I answered that
call. That's how we met her.
We got all our junk. Then they came with the trucks. They had about 5 trucks.
We opened up buildings that hadn't been opened up in a long time.
Oh, in history.
Yeah.
Santa Monica. Yay! The end of the line. I think the water's going to be warm. I'm going to go wait. Well, Pat's got a beach house, so she's, into this stuff. The kids, though, are really cute, I think. I remember we used to go and you got sand in your bathing suit in the back end. Oh, man. You got sand everywhere. And then the waves would come in and dunk you. That was fun, though. Thank you. Okay, honey. Nice and warm. Just the merry-go-round. It's kind of nice having all this equipment here on the pier. It's fun seeing new things, and we have a little more time. My dad used to make that in 4.5 days from Illinois. Oklahoma still look the same. Texas still look the same. Arizona. New things were built, but the land still looked alike. The ocean's like this. And it's so great to see this pier again. We had a wonderful trip. It's been a real trip down memory lane, and it's just been wonderful, and it's been even better than I expected. It's been fun being grown up, You get to pick what you want to see and stay where you want to stay, and maybe take a little more time to see things.
Americans are in love with the open road. New interest in the highway triggered memories of early American car culture. Many old-timers held on to these vintage American automobiles. Now enthusiasts of a younger generation have restored them to their original condition.
I have a 36 Ford that I've had since I was 17. And I have my best friend, he and I put that together back in the 50s. And it needs a little work. I don't have time to fool with it now. And he has a machine shop up there. So Monday, we brought the 36 Ford down to his place. And he's going to get running. And it started out, I was going to buy a Harley Davidson and run 66 from Chicago to the coast. And I had a friend that had a motorcycle that got in an accident, wound up at the hospital for 6 months. And I decided maybe that wasn't the smartest thing in the world to do, because I don't have 6 months left to lay around the hospital, So then one day Barry and I were talking about that 36, and I said, well, I guess I'm going to sell that. And he said, well, maybe I'll buy it. And I said, why, are you interested in it? And he said, yes. I said, well, I'll tell you what, if you want it, you can have it. And so we brought it down last weekend. And, got it down there, it runs. We drove it up on the trailer, hauled it down here and drove it off. Took turns backing it back and forth across his driveway. The brakes on it aren't needing some repair. But it still runs good. Doesn't look too bad for as old as it is.
Car culture is alive on Route 66. In small towns along the way, gearheads and road enthusiasts gather at Route 66 festivals. Here they show off their hot rods and customs and reminisce about America's younger days.
think I have never had so much fun in my entire life.
This is the third year we've been with the International Festival wherever it's been held. You know, we travel across the country enjoying Route 66.
Alley-oop. He's got it. We're gonna look at that. Work it.
We love Route 66.
Yes. We love Route 66.
Woo! How do I think Route 66 has changed? I think I've changed. It looks small to me. You know, this little two-lane blacktop winding hilly road, you know, and I didn't remember that as much because it was so long ago. So I think I've changed, but the route is pretty much, it's not a complete route, you know, it was decommissioned. And these places along 66 had character. So I was really interested in the fact that there were other people who felt like I did and wanted to see some of this stuff saved.
The park preservation program began about, I think it was about 5 years ago that it started moving through the political figures in DC, and they approved $10 million to be spent over a period of, I think, 10 years, about $1 million a year, and they're appropriating the money to icons along the road, the landmarks that you'll see of old neon signs and even buildings that may be old service stations, old mom and pop stores that are now closed, that really were the icon of the heydays, that people remember these places. So they are giving an amount of money to people that have nonprofit organizations that can put their time into preserving these.
What I like to talk to people about is, you know, get involved in your state organizations. The donations that you make for your membership, help those organizations with restoration projects, with identifying people who need federal funding, which we're working on diligently, to help people to fix a roof or fix a furnace or fix a wall or restore rooms. And these people need this money because right now a lot of people go just zooming by all these small little towns and don't take the time to pull off and really go through the towns and get a flavor of what Main Street USA was all about. Because back when I first started riding on Route 66, they didn't have bypasses. So you had to go through the towns, and you would peer out and you would see life in these different towns, what was going on. You'd see the great architecture, you'd see the great neons, you'd see what life was like in all of these different towns up and down the road.
Coming out on 66 for us was bringing us kind of to a new life, and I think that's why it meant so much to us. Doing Route 66 not only met my expectations, it just went way beyond. I knew the road had been, decommissioned, and we didn't drive it anymore because it wasn't there to drive, just patches of it. But it's just marvelous how it's coming back, how certain, we could go all the way across Missouri on it, trying to find the old route and seeing the things that were there. I enjoyed it. Is there anything you want to add?
Thank you. Just to drive slow when you can, as the t-shirt says here. Leave earlier, drive slower, live longer.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
And I hope to see some of you who see this, who see me, watch for my famous Volkswagen van and wave and flag me down. We'll have a visit.
Route 66 is really the heart of America. It's the heart and soul of America. It's what's left that this country built on. I think it's wonderful so many people want to preserve it. And astonishing to me were the people that come from all over the world to see what America was like. It's there for people to see, these places that have been preserved. And it's just been really a blast. I would recommend everybody do it. Take their vacation and go see the old 66, the old motels, the restaurants, what's left today, what's being restored. It's just terrific.
Bye-bye, kids.
See you later.
Thank you.
Oklahoma City, looking mighty pretty. You'll see Amarillo, Gallup, and New Mexico. Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Bosco, San Bernardino. Won't you get hip to this timely tip? When you make that California trip, get your kicks on Route 66. Oklahoma City, looking mighty pretty. You'll see Amarillo, Gallup, and New Mexico. Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Bosco, San Bernardino. Won't you get hip to this timely tip? When you make that California trip, get your kicks on Route 66. Get your kicks on Route 66.